This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
A good old-fashioned Christmas miracle in the Star Tribune. This is Wretched Radio. Headline. It's kind of a shocker if you don't mind me saying so. We need wisdom during this season. Wisdom is different than smarts. Wisdom is different than knowing economics. Wisdom is different than knowing science. Even a bad student of mathematics can be wise. You do not need to know a lot of things to be wise. You don't need to know how to build a clock, how to change oil. Wisdom is the thing that the Bible tells us to seek mostly. Now, that does not mean that we do not try to get smart, because our God is smart, and so we study to be like him. But wisdom is the thing that we should be after. Last time I checked, an entire book in the Bible dedicated to the subject of seeking wisdom. Proverbs. We should strive for it. And during this season, where I believe more than ever we are seeing in coronavirus a godless worldview on full display. This is the result of the thinking of the world. Now, right, wrong, or otherwise, the fear of death is driving so much of the conversation. I just saw another interview. I think it was the libertarian guy, Ron Paul. No, Ron's the dad. This is why Rand Paul. This is why Rush Limbaugh ain't got nothing to worry about from us. Here on Wretched Political Talk Radio, Rand Paul was talking to Dr. Fauci, who apparently is in quarantine, and he pretty much gave him a scolding for saying, hey, quote, "You're not the end all. There are other voices in the room that should be heard." Wow. That was sharp. And what was the response of Dr. Fauci? Hey, be careful, because even children could get this. It hasn't happened yet, but they could get it. You want that on your hands? And so his immediate response to being attacked, frankly, was death, 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 death. That's what this is predominantly about. We don't want anybody to die. Now, who wants anybody to die? Of course not. But the Christian realizes death is inevitable. We don't like it. We war against it. We do fight battles. We do go to doctors. We do get cancer treatments. But we recognize everybody's going to die. And when God has set that time, you're going to go down. Now, if you are terrified of dying from COVID, you can wear a hazmat suit to bed if you'd like. But if God wants you to die from it, you will. And conversely, if you think, I'm not going to worry about, I'm not going to catch it. If God wants you to catch it, you're going to catch it. And if he doesn't want you to, you're not going to. And you can run around town looking for a human being and jump in front of every sneeze. And if God doesn't want you to die of COVID, you're not going to. Now, do you do that? Of course not, because that's foolishness. And we are supposed to be the wise people. So perhaps we can bring some wisdom to the conversation again I think we're at time 812 right now, where this is not a commentary on when we should open or not. This is simply thinking through the issue, specifically thinking through how we think through the issue, courtesy of the Star Tribune.
Those are words I never thought I'd hear.
Daniel
Here's one
Taylor.
off the bucket list.
Expertise, by definition, is narrowness of knowledge. You don't know a lot about a lot of things, but you know a lot about one thing. You are an expert. To become truly expert in anything, one must focus on a narrow slice of human knowledge and experience. Wise decision-making, on the other hand, requires what? Breadth of knowledge and experience. Wisdom is understanding what is true and good, and the relative importance of often competing truths and goods, and then acting accordingly. That's what's at stake, and that's what's on display these days. You've got varying understandings of wisdom. And the concern that I think many people have is that they're putting all of the weight on one expert. and making the issue about one subject, and that is death. And this is one of those situations, again, you almost sound cruel. Hey, come on. There's other things besides death. You just sound mean. There's no way to say that without it turning into a slogan like life over profits. And that's what's happened. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop arguing for wisdom, trying to figure out the whole playing field and then making decisions as best we can, the way that we used to. Quote from the Star Tribune, still kind of sticks right there. A wise leader is an embodiment of virtues rather than a master of specialized knowledge. A wise leader is an embodiment of virtues rather than a master of specialized knowledge. That's what somebody in authority does. They are not an expert in every department. If you work in an organization, you know that there are different hallways that take you to different divisions. For instance, you could have production, you could have HR, you've got accounting and finances, you've got perhaps a management hallway, you have got administrative hallways, you've got marketing hallways, perhaps you've got government compliance hallways, you've got ordering, and so getting the goods from here to there. All right, now what is that? What did I just come up with? 7 or 8 different hallways? Now, if any one of those hallways is put in charge and given the reins, that business is in trouble. That is not to suggest for a second that any of those people are dumb. That is not what is being said. But let's just say in this particular plant, whatever it happens to be, the people, brilliant. Okay, I've got a coffee mug here. It's a beastie. It's actually from Grace to You. It's got my hot coffee inside of it. This thing keeps it neutron hot forever. All right, it's somebody's job to just, somebody had to design that. So in the business that makes this cup, you've got the designer of the thing that slips it open and closed. I'll bet that person is whip smart compared to me. They know things about mathematics. They know things about manufacturing, specifically how to plastic and how you make plastic injection molds. I don't know nothing about that. That person is really smart. But if you had that guy, Mr. making the decision about how the organization is going to be run, you're probably in big trouble. You don't need somebody who's an expert in a field. You need somebody with general wisdom who understands all of the issues, not in their complexities, but in their generalities, to put all of the ingredients together and lead something forward. And that seems to be the problem right now. We have got one little area, one little realm driving so much of the conversation. Epidemiology. Put it underneath the umbrella of science. But there's so many other considerations. There's economics, there's government, the social structure, the personal level, family, understanding history, economics. All of those things need to be considered too. And as we've stated here before, for now the 818th time, they've got to be carefully weighed, and there can be a difference of opinion on those things. But right now, this is almost like the gay issue. You can't talk about it, because if you talk about it, you're terrible. Well, we do need to be talking about it, because otherwise, wisdom will not be applied. Back to the Star Tribune. The traditional 7 cardinal virtues are a combination of the classical virtues, courage, prudence, justice, and temperance, and the theological virtues of faith, hope, and love. Each is needed in this time of threat. Each of these virtues requires the support of other virtues. Courage without temperance, for instance, is simply foolhardiness. In a time of a pandemic, a decision maker must exercise all the cardinal virtues in concert, not one or two. And that's I think the Christian approach. Hey, wisdom says we look at all the issues. The Proverbs tell us you hear somebody's side of the issue. Oh, well, that's obvious. That other guy's guilty. And then you hear the other guy and you go, well, wait a second. There's more to the story here. That is the Christian approach. Epidemiologists are professionally required to answer the question of how to stop the virus in absolute terms, as if the only issue to be considered is maximally minimize deaths, with worst-case scenarios taking priority. That is not the best way to approach a subject. A decision that is technically correct but not workable in the real world of human behavior is not a wise decision. We need wisdom in this time. So perhaps, just perhaps, as you go about the business of debating this with friends and family, lift it up. Lift it up to this level to see if you can get agreement on what a wise decision is. And then perhaps, maybe then just perhaps, if nothing else, we might not have agreement, but maybe we won't have so much fighting. This is Wretched Radio. Good evening, my fellow totally depraved Americans.